Analog tape. Analog tape remained the dominant recording medium throughout the 1960s. Reel-to-reel tape machines offered high fidelity and flexibility for recording and editing. Compact cassette tapes also gained popularity for consumer use, providing a portable and affordable format for music playback. Multitrack recording. Perhaps the most influential development of the 1960s was multitrack recording. This technique allowed engineers to record and mix multiple audio tracks independently, enabling greater creativity and control in the studio. Innovations such as the Ampex 8-track recorder and later the 16-track recorder provided musicians with unprecedented flexibility in arranging and producing their music. Studio equipment. Recording studios in the 1960s were equipped with a range of new technologies. Mixing consoles became more sophisticated, featuring multiple channels and routing options. Hardware effects such as reverb, echo, and EQ were also widely used to shape the sound of recordings. Reverb, short for reverberation, simulates the natural acoustics of different spaces such as rooms, halls, or chambers. Plate reverbs and spring reverbs were popular in the 1960s, while dedicated units like the EMT 140 plate reverb and the AKG BX20 spring reverb being widely used in recording studios. Reverb added depth and ambience to recordings, helping to create a sense of space and realism. Echo and delay. Echo and delay effects create repetitions of the original audio signal, adding rhythmic patterns or spatial effects to the sound. Tape machines, such as the Roland Space Echo RE201, were commonly used in the 1960s to generate echo and delay effects. Engineers could adjust parameters like delay time, feedback, and intensity to achieve different textures and rhythmic effects. Tremolo. Tremolo is a modulation effect that varies the volume of the audio signal at a rhythmic rate, creating a pulsating or vibrating sound. Tremolo effects were built into guitar amplifiers in the 1960s, providing guitarists with a means of adding movement and dynamics to their sound. Dedicated tremolo units such as the Fender Vibrolux were also used in recording studios to apply tremolo effects to other instruments or vocals. Chorus. Chorus effects simulate the sound of multiple instruments or voices playing or singing together in unison, creating a rich, shimmering texture. In the 1960s, chorus effects were achieved using tape-based techniques or dedicated chorus units like the Roland JC120 Jazz Chorus Amplifier. Chorus added warmth and depth to recordings, particularly to guitars, keyboards, and vocals. Flanging. Flanging is an audio effect created by mixing two identical signals together with one slightly delayed and modulated in phase. This creates a sweeping, swirling sound that is often described as jet-like. Flanging effects were achieved using tape manipulation techniques in the 1960s, such as manually manipulating the playback speed of tape reels. Dedicated flanger units like the MXR flanger were also introduced later in the decade. EQ. While strictly not an effect in the traditional sense, EQ is a critical tool in shaping the tonal balance of recordings. EQ allows engineers to boost or cut certain frequencies in the audio signal, helping to correct tonal imbalances, enhance clarity, and sculpt the overall sound. Parametric EQs and graphic EQs were commonly used in recording studios in the 1960s to shape the sound of individual tracks or the overall mix. Studio techniques. With the advent of multi-track recording, engineers and producers experimented with new recording techniques. Overdubbing, double tracking, and sound-on-sound recording became common practices, allowing artists to layer multiple performances to create rich, textured soundscapes. Multi-track recording. Multi-track recording allowed engineers to record and manipulate multiple audio tracks independently rather than recording everything simultaneously onto a single mono track. This technique revolutionized the recording process, providing greater flexibility and control over the final product. Engineers could record different instruments and vocals separately, allowing for precise adjustments and corrections during mixing. Overdubbing. Overdubbing involves recording additional layers of sound over an existing recording. With multi-track recording, overdubbing became a common technique in the 1960s, allowing artists to add new parts, harmonies, or instrumental solos in the song after the initial recording session. Overdubbing enabled artists to experiment with different arrangements and textures, resulting in more complex and polished productions. Double tracking. Double tracking is a variation of overdubbing, where a vocalist or instrumentalist records their part twice, creating a thicker, more layered sound. The two performances are often slightly offset in timing and pitch to create a natural chorus effect. Double tracking was widely used in the 1960s to enhance vocal and instrumental performances, adding depth and richness to recordings. Sound-on-sound recording. Sound-on-sound recording is a technique where new recordings are made directly onto the same tape as an existing recording, creating a layered effect. This technique predates multi-track recording and was commonly used in the early days of recording technology. With the advent of multi-track recording, sound-on-sound techniques evolved into more sophisticated overdubbing practices. Punch-in and out recording. Punch-in and out recording allows engineers to replace or correct specific sections of recording without re-recording the entire performance. With multi-track recording, engineers could punch in and out of recording mode at precise moments, allowing for seamless edits and corrections. This technique was particularly useful for fixing mistakes or refining performances during mixing. Bounce mixing. Bounce mixing involves combining multiple tracks of audio onto a single track, freeing up additional tracks for recording new parts. Engineers would create submixes of multiple tracks, often using effects in EQ processing, and then bounce them down to a single track. This technique allowed for more complex arrangements and layering of sounds in recordings. Live recording. Despite the rise of studio recording, live recording remained an important part of the industry in the 1960s. Many iconic albums were recorded live in the studio or at concert venues, capturing the energy and spontaneity of live performances.